All right, so let's look at some editing basics. I got a picture here. I'm in Apple Photos, and what I'm going to do is click Edit. And what you basically want to do is when you get all of these, you see all these options, and if you start getting too carried away, you're going to get lost in them. So, a good rule of thumb is to start from the top and then work your way down. So, light is how exposed a picture is. Right, so you're digitally manipulating all those color values. And so let's say I want to brighten this up a little bit or darken it. It's just a little slider tool. This is going to be your saturation, right? How red are the reds? How yellow are the yellows, etc. And if you move all those values down to 0, then you get black and white. Um, and there's some other little options here, right? So saturation will do all the colors. Vibrance is if you want to mess with the saturation and not affect skin tones. All right, skin tones are typically more on the yellow, red, pink, purple scale, and so saturation will kind of maintain those a little bit better. All right, and then cast, you can see is gonna do some pink and a little bit more greeny blues. Okay, but just kind of move these around until you get the look you want. So if you wanted this to look more like a sunny day or like a summer day, you'd want it to be a little bit more like that. If you want to look like that winter sky, you can kind of move these around that way as well. Going down, retouch is just going to be more for if I had a person in here and they had like a blemish or something. You can click on that. Since I can't really mess with that. But if you just kind of click your brush size, and all it really does is it's going to find something in the picture that's similar, kind of like AI stuff, and just replace whatever you clicked on with something else from that picture. Red eye is red eye, right? So if you take a picture of the flash and you can see their retina, because that's what red eye is, then you can remove that. The white balance. So this is really important. This is going to change the color white. It's going to change the value of whatever your light source is. So if you want, which directly correlates to the color of white in there. So if you make something warmer, it's going to make your white value more towards yellow. If you make something cooler, it's going to make your white value more towards the blue end of things, because whites are measured in color temperature. All right. So you can kind of mess around with these. So continue to work our way down. You get color curves. And these are just the values represented in this histogram. This is called a histogram right over here. Um, the further on the left side you are, this is the darker colors. The further on your right, these are the lighter colors. The middle is midtones. This little section affects the highlights, and this section right here affects the shadows. So really, it typically goes like white, highlights, midtones, shadows, and blacks. These are the absolute scales. So if you want to make where there is no black, then you would kind of grab these little endpoints and move them up. Same thing if you wanted to remove all the white, then you would drop that. But you can see how if you remove all the white or all the black colors, then that really messes with your picture. You can add these little points wherever you want. A very popular thing to do is what's called an S curve. But, oh, I have this extra one there. Yeah. Whoa. Um, so anyway, there's a bunch of like things you can do. You can select which color you want to manipulate. So if you wanted to drop your reds a little bit, and that's going to start removing red from the picture, which leaves you with blue and green. If you want to increase the blue, then you can do that, or you can drop the blue. And same thing with green. In the RGB, when you put all those together, is when you're going to get your white values. Okay, level. It's very, very similar. It's just a different way of seeing that and manipulating the graph points. Okay, so you can kind of mess around doing that. Definition is how kind of obviously defined in it, how sharp is it. I know there's a sharpen tool down here, but basically what that does is that increases the, and sharpening does the same thing, but it increases the line separation. So if you zoom in, you can see how there's like lines. Sharpen will kind of do the same thing. So if I increase this, sharpening really affects mostly just the black, where definition will increase pretty much anything and try to make these more defined, right? So there's less of a kind of blurred space. See how now it's all blurry, where if I increase the definition, it'll start defining those pieces a little bit more. Selective color is a lot of fun to play with. Selective color lets you select whatever color you want. And so like say we wanted to get rid of the yellow and move it towards green, we can do that. And we can turn this from a fall picture into more of a summer picture, right? And so you can see that you can actually do that. And then if you went back up to your curves and, you know, decreased the red a little bit, so we have a lot of red here, a lot of red here. We can actually just kind of like decrease the red or increase it. You know, you can like start really kind of toying with stuff to get the exact color you want. If I want to make my greens greener, this is a really popular one to kind of desaturate your greens. You can make them darker. There's lots of different stuff. And you'll see sometimes like, oh, that color doesn't really exist in my picture. So if you start moving these sliders around, then it can really change. So like you see, we have made this fall picture. That was the original picture. And now we're kind of making it look almost like a summer day. That was literally the original right there. Boom. If you keep going, noise reduction, I don't have much noise in here, so you won't see anything. But if you had noise, you can reduce it. Sharpening I've talked about. That increases the black. And then you can make your edges even harsher or softer. And then fall off is like how much of that gets affected. So the fall off is how many pixels out. So maybe your fall off is like right on this line, or if you have it go a little bit further, that's what fall off does. Vignette's kind of out of style, but if you want to use it, go for it, right? It just adds a vignette. If you go left, it makes a white vignette. If you go right, it makes a black vignette. You can make it even more or less, and you can make it softer, which again just makes the lines a little less harsh. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. You can go into filters and mess with the filters. That'll give you kind of a good idea if you want to crop and just, you know, select a portion of the picture, you can as well. If you want a starting point, you can always click on the little magic wand, and that will give you a starting point so you can see all that works. And if you're like, oh no, what did I do? You can just go revert right back to the original and then play with it again. So work from the top down. Have fun with it. I hope this video helps, and good luck.